What's going on, guys? Back here in the dumpster, here for another dumpster talk. Back another Monday, so starting the week off strong. We have Rich McKee here with us today as our special guest for today's podcast. Rich, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We've been, I think, probably since I started going to networking events 3-4 years ago, kind of got connected with you. And the mutual thing was that you knew my cousin Mike.
Yep.
You guys, I guess, went to Catholic together, played football. So
That's right.
that's kind of the connection. That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
It's cool seeing, like, making that connection at networking events when I was younger. Definitely probably made me comfortable talking to you and stuff.
Yeah, because that was
100%.
probably, like 4 years ago?
Yeah, it's
Yep.
been a while.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much. Right now, you're with Northwestern Mutual.
Yep.
But we were just talking about kind of your journey. If you want to get a little bit into that, you were just sharing some of it.
Yeah, I mean, I can start at the beginning, I guess.
Can dive
more
right
like-
in.
Yeah, let's do it. So, as you mentioned, Alex, graduated Lancaster Catholic alongside Mike, and so he and I had the opportunity to play football together. And there were a lot of guys that had some pretty cool accolades that year, and it was like a championship kind of year for us at Catholic, which was neat. Yeah, I ended up going to Kutztown, was studying business there, but was goofing off a whole lot, which was not good. I won't get into too many specifics, but and then after kind of leaving there, went to Millersville, kind of the same thing. Like I was just kind of goofing off. That was not my typical back when I was in high school, though, right? I was a 3-sport athlete, 3.5 GPA, art student. Like I was like pretty cool dude. Yeah, I kind of got a little bit more about myself, I think. That was part of it. I lost kind of the love for other people and just kind of respecting them. And so it was a 4-year window of just kind of chaos, a lot of relationships that just started to crumble. And once Millersville said, hey, your academics aren't up to par, you need to kind of figure something else out, I was kind of caught like, what do I do? So as any academic person would do, you take a couple classes at Hack. Just kind of bridge the gap a little bit. But at that point in time was when all my relationships really started to just hit rock bottom. And but I did see, like, this was kind of cool. I saw my dad, which, by the way, my dad he's 70 years old. And I think now it's probably officially 42 years that he's been in the steel industry.
Wow.
Oh,
Which is
wow.
pretty crazy. So he's a salesman. So if anybody's listening to this but not watching it and they're like, man, that voice sounds familiar, it's my dad's voice too. So he and I.
Similar voice.
Yeah. And he's Rich McKee as well. But I saw his life change when I was 22, where he was, I don't know, I won't put words in his mouth, but he started to be just softer, right, around the house, like, hey, he really would care. He wanted to know more. He wanted to be a resource, and it was just God working on him. Full transparency, right? We're hard people sometimes, right? And so I saw that. I wanted to know what was going on, and clearly it was just God working through my family. My mom, my dad, their relationship started to heal, which was pretty cool to see, and I started asking questions, and that's when I got really serious about my spiritual journey, and realizing that, my relationships are a mess today, but there's somebody that actually wants to heal relationships. He's the creator and maker of relationships. I just got to know him a little bit better, and so I just pushed in on it, which was cool. Immediately dropped everything that I was doing in life and enrolled at Lancaster Bible College. Got a degree in pastoral ministry while I was there, while I was at Lancaster Bible College, I went on this little internship down at Sandy Cove in Northeast Maryland, and I met this amazing woman. And so proposed to her about 6 months later, and we've been married now 18 years, which is pretty cool. Her name's Masha.
Congrats.
Yeah, and she's originally from Russia, which is a wild story in itself. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit in a nutshell. Let's see. No kiddos in the house. We've got a cat, which I'm a cat dad. Never thought I'd be a cat dad, but, it is what it is. Yeah.
Cool cats are cool. We appreciate you sharing that. The biggest thing that stuck out to me is how hard was it to make that decision to kind of change? I feel like a lot of people want to make a change, but that decision kind of has to come with yourself. How hard was that?
Yeah. Well, I'll give a little bit of details then, because this is pretty interesting. Association is a lot for people, right? Who you hang out with. And at that point in time for me, it involved drugs and alcohol, full transparency, right? I was in a really rough crowd. And when I got to college, it got even more toxic. And so, jumping out of that was all I knew. So now I was like this kind of lone ranger in a sense, right? But I had to find like a new network. I had to find solid people I could tap into. And, part of me was like, I think it was God kind of really guiding me to that as well. And I questioned everybody's character and their motive. Like, are you really who you say you are? Yeah. Right? You're nice and all, but what's behind the surface? But yeah, man, I just was, I almost want to say, like naive enough, almost like a childlike faith kind of scenario of like, I just believed that there are better people. I wanted to be that better person. And so, yeah, it was not easy. It was not easy, kind of like, I lost a lot of quote unquote friends. They weren't really friends. They didn't have my back, right, when things started to crumble. But there were a couple few individuals, they saw my change, and they were like, Rich, you're different. It actually is better than what you were. You're now a better version of yourself. We want to become better too. And so as on my journey, there were some other people that were like, hey, like we want to dig in deeper about our spiritual life as well, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have like a piece of advice you would give someone that if they're listening to this and they're kind of in that age range making the same decisions, do you have any advice for them?
Oh, that's a great one. Man, I'd say stop where you're at. Don't hesitate to have a dialogue, an organic dialogue for the first time ever with God. That was pivotal for me, right? It wasn't a soft one. It wasn't an easy one, but I was a little angry, right? But it's like, just stop, listen, right? You might not hear an audible voice, but he'll pull on your heart. And that was a big one for me. I just had to stop the chaos, kind of listen, ponder a little bit, and also just look at some people around you that have good fruit in their life, right? They're good people. They're doing well for others. They're always encouraging. They're uplifting. Those are the types of individuals you should come around side and say, like, okay, what are you doing? Why do you do what you do, right? Tell me your story. How did you get to this place, right? There's always a story behind it. There's passion, and tap into that. Kind of grab some of their passion and make it yours.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A little more just to go off of that point, like with just I guess when you kind of switch to being more of a spiritual mindset and following that path, like how I feel like in my personal experience, it's like very easy to feel like you're close with God, maybe kind of when you really need him, I guess. And how do you, like, what's some advice, I guess, in the time in between, I guess?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, that's your whole life, really.
Yeah.
You always should try to keep good faith, but
Yep.
I feel like sometimes for me, at least, it can be easier to be in that mindset if I'm struggling on something, but then you fall right out of it.
This is good. Yeah. Discipline, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm not that physically fit like I used to be. Okay. Why? Because I don't have the discipline that I used to in that area. But you can be an absolute beast with your relationship with spiritual things, right? And it has a lot to do with just understanding a relationship, right, and honing in on it. I think if you have, we were just talking about your fiance, right?
Yep.
You guys went to Gettysburg. You're doing things with your fiance. You're communicating with your fiance, right? You're kind of exercising that relationship, right? You're doing things together. You're planning things together. Do the same thing. Yeah. It's like, are you actually intentionally planning, things with God, moments with him? Most people don't. It's just like, oh, I'm going to go to church on Sunday. It's like, no, he's here right now.
Yeah.
Right? He's with us. Like, so, bring him in, and acknowledge him. And I think that's part of it too, is like, if that's the number one relationship you have in your life, and he's the one that's kind of orchestrating things, and you believe it, bring him into every conversation. Don't fear it, right?
That's a good point.
There's a whole lot going on right now in this world, right? And if there's love at the core of it, we need more of that. We need more love, right? And if he can bring it and deliver it, bring him in. Let's go.
Sure.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that at the beginning. It was really good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For sure. Kind of to segue to where you are now, could you kind of walk us through your current role and kind of what you focus on daily at Northwestern Mutual?
Yeah, absolutely. Went from pastoral ministry into more sales roles, right? And then I'd say about 3 years ago, I really kind of got that, like, I need to build something that I can impact people more specifically. And so Northwestern Mutual fit the mold to kind of get a financial practice started. And so I've always kind of enjoyed personal finances, but also more so mentoring and coaching people. And finances is an area that we need more education. We need more coaching and guidance on. And so today what I do at Northwestern Mutual is I'm a financial advisor. And so I help people with their budgeting, right, to understand where they can use some of their money wisely to protect their household and then also invest for future or other projects they have going on in life, right? It could be something very simple of just like, hey, you need more life insurance. Cool. I got you on that, right? It could be, hey, we want to look at different ways to put money for retirement, right? Really to start kind of sowing good seeds. But it all starts with understanding what are your dreams, your goals, right? What are you passionate about most right now? People that are passionate in certain areas of their life, that's where they actually end up putting a lot of time and money, right? I want to know what that is, so I can help them achieve their goals. Yeah.
That's interesting. So you work personally with all of your clients, I'm sure, kind of talking through what their goals are, and then you can kind of put them towards the right direction.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
Perfect. What kind of drew you first to Northwestern Mutual?
Yeah. So actually years ago, I think it was now 6 years ago, in doing all the networking that I do, right? I had a phone call with somebody that was a wholesaler through a 401k company. And they're like, hey, Rich, we know that you love networking, meeting new people. There's a guy coming into the area from Nashville. He doesn't know anybody in Lancaster except for his wife. He's kind of, transplanting up this way. You should reach out to him. He's a pretty cool guy. Sounds good. So I reach out to him, and he and I immediately hit it off. We're grabbing a cup of coffee, and I'm like, faith, family, like we have these things that we're just passionate about. At that point in time, I'm like, so tell me a little bit more about why you're different than other financial advisors. Because up until that point in time, when I was at my role at Paylocity, I literally would network with, I think it was my first 6 months there, over 100 financial advisors I met in Lancaster.
Wow. And
grabbed either a cup of coffee, a Zoom meeting, whatever it was, right? And he was the first one that said, Rich, do you have a financial plan? And I'm like, no, I don't. And he's like, well, every individual should. And that plan might be very basic. And this is what he's like, it could be very basic. It could be you need to save more and get out of debt, right? For some people, that's exactly what they need to do. He's like, but then for others, it's like, well, if you've already figured that out, well, let's be a little bit more aggressive. Let's actually start to grow your money. Let's start to protect your household. So we had that conversation. He and his wife and my wife and I, we kind of got together, connected a little bit. And I asked my wife, I'm like, does this guy check out? Is he cool? What do you think? Because ladies pick up things, right? And she's like, yeah, he's awesome. And so, 6 years later, he and I, we collaborate on a lot of projects. He's still at Northwestern Mutual, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So that was, the relationship was key, right? Number one. Number two, the product lineup on a risk perspective is they're the big giant animal when it comes to insurance products that you can't mess with. Yeah. Like they're the top of the line there. And I almost want to say too, it's like some of their stuff's boring, Well, sometimes boring's the best.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing that's going to shake the tree, right? It's consistent, and I kind of like that. Now, in full transparency, it's like one of those things where there's tons of opportunity out there. I could have gone to any one of those, partnered with any one of those 100 advisors that I met, but God has me here right now for this time, which is cool.
For sure. What would you say the importance of building those impactful business partnerships? I know you mentioned it a lot so far.
Yeah. So, number one, like we're not all about ourselves, right? We can't be, right? Because at the end, it's we don't take any of this with us. It should always be about others, right? And kind of what we leave behind, that legacy. And for me, I've always wanted to shake more hands, connect with more people. I believe that I can give more, and it's not just what I'm transacting in business, but in the relationships, right? There's probably some things that I can pass on to you guys just through when we met originally, right? And since then, and even if it's just a word of encouragement, right? But your network, and it's probably been said, hopefully, somewhere on this your podcast before, but your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? And it doesn't have to always equate to dollars.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about impact. And for me, I love knowing that the more people that I connect with, the more people that understand my brands, my personal brands of who I am, the character I have, that I'm a product of a changed individual, right? And who I represent, and a little bit about kind of, where I'm going and some of my goals, that'll actually kind of like translate to them as well. They'll catch a little bit of that passion. They'll start to identify like, hey, this is who I am as my personal brand. But if you've got 250, 300, 400, 500, 10,000 people, or call it 1 million people, and they know who you are and what you represent, right? Now they're a mouthpiece for you.
Yeah.
Right? They can vouch for who you are and what you do. And they just might one day be like, oh, yeah. Do you know Rich McKee? You got to get to know Rich McKee.
Yep.
Right? And it might not even be for insurance or investments.
Yeah.
Right? And actually, I prefer that. Right? I'd love to find people that it's just, we have a common thread. We're both passionate individuals about life, about family, and it's cool. Now can I help you?
Yeah,
sure.
I think that's definitely something we're starting to learn. Is just like, obviously for here, if we're going out trying to sell or just at an event, like the thing we want, we're trying to get metal into the yard, obviously at the end of the day. But it's like the amount of people that we've touched and like left a mark on, like they remember our name, remember Saad's name, all that business will come at the end of it. Like, it's really about, like you said, the connections you make and everything like that.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, to the point of like always trying to sell,
Yeah.
right? No, I'm always trying to relate.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. I just want to hear your story, share mine. If things jive, let's rock. Let's have some fun, right?
Sure.
Yes, stories are so powerful because that way you can feel confident about referring people as well. So
I feel like people don't like the too salesy. Like I like to connect with people. I might not even talk to them about what I do for the first couple times that we meet. Just try to build a friendship. I feel like that's the best way to kind of go about it. Could you think in the past, like, have you had any huge kind of like business mentors that kind of influenced you in your life?
It's interesting. I've had more spiritual mentors than business mentors, but and actually maybe I'll share two stories for that. So one of my first mentors spiritually, Andy Gordley is his name. He's a missionary currently in Costa Rica, and he saw me when I was not right spiritually, okay? And then he saw me change, and he was an individual that, and here's the key, he took a risk on me, okay? And he said, hey, I've got this responsibility, and I think you can do it, all right? At that point in time when he said, hey, I want you to lead this Bible study, right, with a whole bunch of teenagers, I was like, I've never even really read any of the Bible on my own. He's like, well, you enrolled in Lancaster Bible College. You're going to start anyway, so you might as well. I'll work with you. And so we'd meet, once a week for a couple weeks, he and I, just kind of going through some things, praying with each other. And he's like, hey, you just got to do these things, like read these scriptures, start to integrate it into your studies and so forth. And so I did. I was so nervous because I didn't want to screw up, right? But he was willing to take a risk. And I think that was one of the biggest blessings in my life, was somebody that I saw as a leader was willing to see something in me and willing to kind of say, hey, I'll risk it because I know that there's something greater in you, right? That was a massive lesson. So today, that's the same thing for me. It's like every time I meet people, it's like you have an unbelievable amount of blessing that's going to come, and your ability is way more than what you think it is right now, right? And so that kind of uncapped some things for me, which was great. Another one along the way, I just have to say would be my dad. Huge one. Watching him kind of change and grow as an adult, and then seeing him in the business world, in the steel industry, when it comes to fab shops, he's like the mayor. Like, there's probably not a fab shop he doesn't know about in Lancaster.
Wow.
Right. Wow. And everywhere he goes, he sees somebody. He's like, hey, what's going on? But he knows depth of relationship. And what I mean by that is he can recall really quickly about that individual, their wife, went through a health situation, or, their daughter's at this XYZ college, or, it's fantastic, right? It's not just the business projects that individual's working on, right? It's more so about what's going on in their life. So I've learned a lot from him. It's not just about dropping donuts off and pizza off. It's about that conversation to relate, and then recalling that, remembering it.
Yeah. That's very similar to Dan, I would say. I've noticed in my 4 years going to networking events, that's something he's good at as well.
Very good.
He calls it useless knowledge, but I don't think it's useless, because it's just, I don't know, it's really impressive. Just, you might not fully know the person, but you can remember like conversations in the past that you've had about their family or stuff like that.
Absolutely. Definitely makes them more comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. What is your favorite kind of part of your job? Like, what gives you the most satisfaction?
And I'd have to say it's holding people accountable. That's a wild statement, right? But it's kind of like unlocking whatever it is that they're passionate about, solving their problem, but then kind of reminding them down the road, right? Yeah. So it's like, hey, we set these things up, so that you can be successful, sleep better at night, right? Know that things are kind of like in play. We have a plan in motion. But sometimes people need to be reminded and tapped on the shoulder, and they're like, hey, we got to stay on this, right? Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not like asking again for more, if that makes sense. I will. If it's okay, I'll be a little vulnerable and talk about setbacks.
Cool.
Is that cool?
Yep.
So earlier, when I introduced myself, I mentioned that my wife and we have no kids in the house, right? Yeah. I get the question often, especially when I'm working with young families, and they're like, hey, how many kids do you have in your house, right? And, I always say, like, no kids in the home, right? Now, if I know that they're spiritual individuals, or they can kind of handle a message, or I kind of know their story already because they've shared it with me, then it's kind of like, great, maybe I can kind of pour into them a little bit, right? And so for some people, it's like, really hard for them to go through certain things in life. And for me, what was I would say a temporary setback, but a massive launching point in my life was when my wife and I lost a daughter, okay? And so in 2012, my wife gave birth to a beautiful girl named Victoria. Kind of piggyback a little, or take a couple steps back. All the doctors were saying there's no chance. Like, here are your options. You know, your baby will not see the light of day. Fast forward, my wife goes into labor early, and they can't stop the labor. And but we prayed, we spoke all the time, even when we talked to medical professionals, right to their face, like, hey, we know your facts, right? We see it. We see all the facts all the time, but we know God's truth. God's truth is all about healing and living, right? And, you know, somewhere along the way in history, like, we all screwed that up, okay? Humans did. But man, I'll tell you, in a medical room at Women's and Babies full of about 20 professionals, 20 medical professionals, to have our child come out kicking and screaming, they were all shocked. I don't think there was a closed mouth in that room. I mean, I'm squeamish around stuff, so like I almost passed out, but it's a whole nother scenario. But in that moment, even though we knew it was going to be potentially a short road, short life for Victoria, we saw immense victory in what was happening. And we only got to spend a few hours with her, you know, hold her before she passed. There was way too many complexities going on there. But that drove some passion, you know, in a lot of what I did. And I knew that there was an opportunity to tell that story over and over again with people, especially when I, you know, hear stories of pregnancy complications, and just to be able to tell people like, hey, you can kind of choose the story, right, a little bit, you know, and we can't write the plan. My mom said this to me the other day. She's like, the way things kind of worked out, and like we got some family stuff going on right now that's like with some health concerns, and she's like, I would have never planned it like this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm so glad our plans don't have to be the good ones. They don't have to be the correct ones. They're never right, right? Our plans are never right. God's plan's always right, because we're supposed to learn something through it. We're supposed to get stronger through it. And my faith grew. And my wife and I, we chose to, you know, talk often and pray together and get together around this topic as we were going through that trial. And we came out so much stronger, right? So I think that there's anytime you have a pitfall or a stumbling block or something that kind of takes you back a little bit, you can use that as a launching pad. And that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, I guess you could.
Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Sorry to hear that.
It's definitely very powerful, and we appreciate that you feel comfortable talking with us about that and on the podcast and stuff. It's kind of it makes you think of like we said, we met 4 years ago at the marketing event. So this is where you would hope like you can make a relationship get to.
Yeah,
really having
Absolutely.
meaningful talks and stuff like that.
I mean, every time we're seeing each other, it's more so like, hey, who'd you meet yet? You know, did you meet that person yet? And you know, it's introducing each other to others, and always I'm always the one too, probably being like, man, I'm proud of you guys. Like, one thing I will say, when we first met, most people use networking events because it's like, I want to get a lead today, right? Dan comes, brings you guys, right? And more businesses should do this. More business leaders should do it. Now, I'm in a unique role where it's like, it's just me for right now, right? I don't have a team, quote unquote. But my team's already in the room. Why is that? Because if I know a benefit broker, if I know a CPA, if I know, a banker, it's like, hey, you need to go to this event.
Yeah.
Right? You need to go to this event. Let me introduce you to some people. What Dan did years ago with you guys is something special. He got you in an atmosphere to challenge you, to grow you. Okay. Now it's up to you to either sit back in the corner and curl up like a ball, or are you going to actually go out and start shaking hands and replicate it? But he took that chance.
Yeah.
Right. He got you in front, and guess what? It's grown the two of you immensely. And for me to see that over 4 years, that's another reason why I wanted to be here. Because I'm like, it is absolutely amazing. right?
Really appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's always great when we see you at events too.
Yep.
Like you're always very nice, complimenting, saying congrats on
Yeah.
kind of, because you've got to see us probably from one of our first events till now.
Absolutely.
And we'd be lying if we said we definitely have curled up in a ball in the corner multiple times.
Sure.
Stan has funny stories about that. But now we've been to hundreds of events, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah.
And each one you just get better at. You get to meet great people that you never know kind of how that connection can be used later on in life.
Exactly right. Yeah. You absolutely do not know.
Yep.
It could be the most random thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, didn't we meet at an event before? And you're standing at like a Sheetz gas pump or something,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I did. Man, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, they could be really doing well, or they could be completely down in the dumps. Well, guess what? You're there in the moment for a reason.
Yeah. That's been a cool part kind of going to networking events is seeing people outside of work. Like there's times where me and Onyx will go to Lancaster and go shopping or something. And not every time, but certain times we'll see people that I've seen at a networking event. And it's just cool to kind of, they can see you outside of work. My big thing, like I try to explain it to Onyx, is I like for people to see me the same at a networking event as they would at Park City shopping. I feel like it's since we've been doing networking events really young, I could kind of pick up on I wouldn't say people that are fake, but just not being authentic to kind of who they are. It's kind of like they put like a wall up or something. So that's kind of been something I've been working on a lot, is trying to have people just be the same version of myself every time you meet me.
It's super important. The authenticity, people pick it out.
Yeah, and I feel like especially our generation's really good at kind of figuring that out quick in people. So that's something I've kind of been working on big time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate it. We always end off with kind of a finale question, but I wanted to talk about LinkedIn first.
Yeah.
What is the importance to you kind of building that network? I went to college at Thaddeus for a year, and all I had was LinkedIn since I wasn't here anymore for 9 months. And it's been great for me personally. I just wanted your kind of opinion on it.
Yeah, great question. So I'll talk a little bit about just social media in general. It can be loud and noisy and just a bunch of junk, right? But then it can be extremely rewarding. So LinkedIn being a more professional network, for me, that's what I like to almost call my Rolodex. Have you guys ever seen a Rolodex before?
I've heard the
I've
term.
heard the term.
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll have to find one, but you can probably find them in antique stores now. But basically, it was where you would stick your business cards, right? And it would kind of spin, right? And you can kind of then find, all right, who's under the A's, right? Who's under the B's, who's under the C's. Now it's it's just in your phone, right? But LinkedIn is that place where, yes, they might be connected. I might be connected with them, or loosely connected with them, okay? But every time I meet somebody and they have a business card or I'm at an event, I want to actually take that information, put it somewhere, and then follow up with them. At a minimum, if it's you know what, maybe I just at least want to connect with them, because that business card might go away, right? But I want to make sure that I'm connected with them on LinkedIn. They can now see, if they connect with me, they can see some of the posts that I'm putting out there. I can interact with them. And worst case scenario, I might be able to connect them with somebody.
Yeah.
I say that as a worst case scenario. I might never do business with them, but I might give them business, right? But yeah, that's a big one about just professional visibility. Get all the other stuff out of the side.
Yeah.
Right. And LinkedIn's huge for not just the brand that you represent, the company, but also your personal brand. So I try to do a little bit of a mix. I'd say 99% of I'd say 95% of the posts that I put out there have to do more with what I do for work, and they're already pre-set up, right? Because there's all kinds of compliance stuff around that.
Yeah.
But then I'll post some personal stuff. I did one over the weekends, picture of my family, which is really cool and special, to just celebrate my nephew and kind of his achievements on the football field, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. It's definitely, it's like a virtual networking event kind of.
Correct.
I try to do a little bit of personal, but there's a lot of cool stuff that we see in the yard. And before working here, I never saw any of that stuff. So that, like, if something's cool going on, I just like to post it quick and just kind of not even think about it. You never know who's going to like it,
Right.
who's going to message you from it. It's like a free thing that you could either use to help you, or you're kind of going to miss out on the benefits of it.
Absolutely. I think it's underutilized, especially by the younger generation.
Yeah.
And they always say, like, in my industry, there's a transfer of wealth that's going to occur because the baby boomers are all retiring, right? And where's that money going to go? I mean, they might spend it all. I don't know. You start seeing a bunch of 70-year-olds going on crazy vacations,
Yeah.
and the money might all be gone. But there's also a knowledge transfer that needs to occur,
Yeah.
right? And so where does all that sit? Where do those relationships sit? And professional mentorship, apprenticeships, like I don't hear or see as much as I would like to. But LinkedIn kind of has all those resources there.
Yep.
Really, and it's just being willing to reach out to people and say, hey, I looked over your profile. I'd love to hear your story.
Yep.
Maybe we can, benefit from connecting a little bit more. People that are open to doing that, I'll tell you, it's massively rewarding,
Yeah.
right? And instead of just trying to sell something.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think of it kind of like as your virtual resume.
Yep.
Like if a company's trying to hire you and they look at your LinkedIn and they see you being really consistent and kind of loving the company you were with prior, I think that's kind of could play a big factor in their
Absolutely.
decision on you.
Agreed.
For sure.
Yes, yep.
You
Well,
talk. Oh, you
no, you
got
can
one
go.
more thing. This about talking about kind of what you said. What drives you every day, and kind of being in the sales role. How that matches up with just being a people's person, liking the connection and stuff. Obviously, you're always making connections everywhere in life. What else do you kind of, if you don't mind sharing, what do you kind of get into outside of work as far as just like just leisure, like hobbies? Where else
Yeah.
are you making connections and stuff?
So I mentioned my beautiful wife. I love hanging out with her.
Yeah.
I mentioned my cat. I love hanging out with him.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of, it's interesting. As soon as I walk in the door, he like falls right at my feet, and I'm like, oh man, now I got to hang out with you, which I don't complain about. But yeah, outside of work, it's interesting. So I do a lot of networking.
Yeah.
Some of it is work, some of it's not. I do a lot of volunteer type stuff too. Okay. I'll give you a little bit of a picture of what my past week was like. So this will give you a little bit of a picture. So there's an organization called Men of Iron, which is a men's mentorship program. So I currently mentor a gentleman through that program, but then I'm also friends with them too, that organization. So they had a couple little workshops this week. So I went to two and presented there. And again, this is all like, biblically based spiritual truths around, family life, faith, friends, finances, fitness, that kind of stuff. So I was instrumental in those, and then I did some additional networking that wasn't like really set or structured, but it was more of being a resource to people that are first-time home buyers, right? And so I was just there as more of like, hey, I want to shake some hands, but there were some really cool interactions that I had, and so I'm glad I went, right? And that was in collaboration with a couple of real estate professionals and a mortgage lender. So that was really neat. That's all stuff like I don't get paid for, right? And then there's another one called Diversa Business Alliance, which I need to get you guys out to this breakfast we're having, but there's a free breakfast come in the first week of November, and we're hosting Good Samaritan Services, which is out of Ephrata. And so Diversa Business Alliance, their purpose is to do networking, but also we're not that typical networking referral group where it's like hand out the business cards and stuff, right? And you have to be there, like attendance-wise. They're very, very relaxed on that. The key is we want to see people grow professionally, right? We want to see you better next week than what you were this week, and your attitude and in your education and so forth. But we also pick on a nonprofit every year to kind of do some collaborative work with. And so Good Samaritan Services was chosen. So we're kind of doing something cool with them, having a free breakfast and just kind of, introducing them to pretty much probably be somewhere in the wheelhouse of like 80 to 100 professionals in the room to really just hear from Nate Hoffer at Good Sam and like the story there and what they do, which is cool. I'm a board member at Lighthouse Vocational Services, and then I'm a board member for Wrestlers in Business Network here out of Lancaster, that chapter. I fish. Bow fishing is kind of cool.
That'd
Slay
be fun.
some beasts.
We've never done that.
We should maybe do that sometime. And then trying to think what else. I used to, and one of my buddies, if he hears this, he'll have a field day with it. But I used to sell things online, like during like the COVID time frame. Everybody was sitting at home, so that was like a perfect time to just get rid of junk in the house.
Yeah.
And so like old toys that I had from like the 80s and baseball cards and all that kind of stuff. So once in a while I'll go to like a show, you know, here and there and have some fun with that. But yeah, on travel's a big one. My wife loves traveling, and yeah, I think that's part of it too. Like this world was created for us to actually explore. Yeah. And for a period of time, for a number of years, because of just our own budget, respecting that, we didn't do a lot of travel, right? But over the past, the only travel we did was to Russia.
Yeah. Still a good trip though.
It was awesome. Yeah, I learned a lot. But yeah, in the past, I'd say 5 years, we've done some pretty cool trips. Like from my wife and I, and also to spend time with family. So we tried to do some cool stuff. We were talking about you know, your trip to Gettysburg over the weekend. Yep. My wife and I, we were just texting around going to Longwood Gardens, right? Yep. You know, kind of doing something cool in the fall here. Yeah, anywhere to create memories, right? It's not about spending the dollars. Like, yeah, stop spending money on stuff, yep. Right? Let's create memories. I think that's huge. Make it impactful for your family, for your friends. That's what we do. We spend a lot of time and dollars with people in relationships, and most of that ends up being people that I do business with too. Yeah, because it's not weird. It's not a transactional thing. It's a relational thing. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. We always kind of wrap it up with a finale question. You kind of hit kind of on it, but we'll still ask it. What advice do you wish someone gave you back when you were our age? We're both 23 now. We're not going to get, I kept saying 22, but I'm 23 now. So what advice do you wish someone would have gave you back then?
Man. Find people that are willing to push you. They're willing to challenge you. If you get comfortable, know that it's not right. Right? There's always got to be some element of fear in your life, and you have to just run through it, right? Sometimes we end up looking at certain things and being like, no, like that's not for me, or that's not, it's going to be too hard, right? Or right now is a bad season of life for me, okay, to be able to do. I'm too busy, okay? This is just us putting up these little tiny temporary barriers that God already intends us to just blast right through, right? I always, here's a great illustration for it. Have you ever seen like those midget football teams where they like run out into one of those banners?
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't break.
Yeah. They fall down.
Yeah. And all the kids, it's like, you know, it looks hilarious. That's what we do to ourselves every single day, right? We're just like, oh no, I can't. That can't is made to be broken. Right? And you can do it, right? And sometimes, like, you have to go through the tough stuff, right? So just find somebody who's willing to challenge you, be in your corner. And I would say right now in our current environment that we're in, find one or two people, right? So for you guys, find one or two guys that you can confide in around anything in life, which means one or two. You don't need to tell the world your stuff, but find one or two. And for ladies, I'd say the same thing. Find one or two ladies you can confide and share what's going on in your heart, what's going on in your minds, we need to be a little bit more vulnerable with each other. We need to challenge each other. We need to grow each other. That's how we all stay in community together.
For sure.
Right? There's too many people that are going rogue or go silent, and that's not good. Not good at all. Okay? I enjoy moments of silence, but that's typically me and God. If I'm not communicating with God, I'm hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, let's always be in communication with somebody that's going to make us better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great advice. Thank you for sharing that.
absolutely.
We appreciate you coming on again. You guys will have to keep an eye out for a part 2 later down the road. We're on our road to 100 episodes. This is episode 93, I believe.
Hey, I might have to then bring my dad along because
That'd be cool.
he can talk steel stuff.
Oh yeah, that would be perfect.
I know
We'll have to
nothing
do that.
about that.
So does he sell? I guess he sells like new steel to to machine
structural
shops?
steel. Yeah. Pipe and structural steel and
Wow.
So that'll be fun.
That'll be part 2. We'll have to give him a tour of the yard and
Oh, man.
up on the podcast.
I think that'll jump your steel attendees for sure.
Perfect.
They'll all want to chime in. Yeah,
Perfect.
that'll be
Sounds
good.
great. Well, thank
Awesome.
you again, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Take care.